right. Welcome back to The Good Truth. My name is Dan. I'll be your waitress. It's been maybe a solid week. Hey, look at that. We're getting notifications. We are live today on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. This is the first time going live on TikTok, so we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure if you guys can hear the effects and audio things on your side. I sure as hell can in my headphones, and that was loud. So we'll see how this goes. But where do we begin, man? It's been a crazy couple of weeks as far as politics is concerned. A bit troubling, I would say. Interesting, fun, not so much. But why don't we start with like a lighthearted way of looking at things? I keep getting these questions week after week, and it seems to be the same question. Why don't you wash your hands? That's the question I keep getting more than anything, week after week. What do we got right there? I don't know if you can see. I got dirty hands. What can I say? Reason for that is because I'm a working man, ladies and gentlemen, and I work what would be essentially the same as 2 full-time jobs, and I'm still trying to do the show at least weekly if I can. What's up, Mosin? Mosin? Is that your name? I'm good. Thank you for joining. What's on Denwood's hands? Today we have a mixture of polyurethane and dirt because, I was doing some woodworking today as well as some landscaping work, which is always fun. Last time I had some really interesting individuals. I think they were the MAGA moron type. They like to really comment on my YouTube and say as many nasty things as they can. It's fun. But they're like, why don't you wash your hands? And last week I had tar all over my hands, and that stuff doesn't come off. You can wash and wash and wash. It takes at least a couple of days. So today, I gave him a quick wash, but still, that's the way life goes. I'm dirty, I guess. Anyhow, thank you for coming to the show. My first live on TikTok. Also, let's see what we got in my pockets here. Home Depot receipt. We got a screw. Let's see what else we got. What do we have in here? And a couple of nails, I think. Look at that. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Dirty hands, a screw, 2 nails, and some Home Depot receipts. That's how entertaining this live is going to be today. So I just got finished with work, and it's been more than a week. I think I want to start trying to do lives on Sundays if possible. If any of you out there live in the Southern California area, potentially between LA and San Diego, and you want to get involved with doing a political program, particularly this political program, go ahead and shoot me an email. It's pretty easy. It's thegoodtruth@gmail.com. Right now, since I'm going by the skin of my teeth, every show so far has been a 2-hour plus live show, completely improvised. No notes. Well, I got a few notes today, but the last couple of shows, I have the notes there, but I don't look at them because I'm too busy trying to fill time with words. So it ends up being completely unscripted and improvised throughout the entire 2 hours, generally after a long, hard day of work or long, hard week of work, in my case. So I would eventually like to see if there's people involved that want to get involved in the Southern California area who could possibly either come out for interviews, do like more of a traditional podcast style show, or even be involved as far as like an editor is concerned, somebody that's willing to send out videos, articles, information, things that I can peruse and go over previous to each show, so I can have things to share publicly as far as the videos go, articles to read, so there's some data that goes along with the good truth rather than just me talking to the camera and telling you what is true and what is not true, right? So if anybody's out there that wants to get involved, thegoodtruth@gmail.com, send me an email, and we'll see if we can connect. I've got a lot further to go as far as the studio is concerned. I've got a bunch of old equipment right now. My TikTok live camera, the one I'm looking at right now, we're using like a GoPro Hero 4, which is ancient, and it's taken me like 2 months just to get this thing working, which is why this is my first live on TikTok. I also got a Canon M50 that I've got going on Twitch and YouTube at the moment. Got a ring light, got a couple monitors so I can computer away. Got this, garage setup behind me. But in the future, eventually I would like to get, my workshop detailed out a little bit nicer, get a couch over there, maybe another camera so I can have guests. I can continue having this set up here, but also have like another camera to switch over to a guest, which would in turn require an engineer, potentially a friend or someone in the area that would be essentially a co-host and or a switch operator, if you will. I used to have a buddy that did that for my old podcast back like 10 years ago. My buddy Nick, he would, he was like, what is that broligarch cuck, what's his name? Joe Rogan. That's right. What's his guy? He's got that guy that's kind of in the background. He does searches on computers. Jamie? I think his name is Jamie or something like that. I need a Jamie, basically. So we'll see what happens as we grow. This is only the 4th episode. I've probably posted hundreds of videos now on TikTok, shorts on TikTok and YouTube alike, which is basically coming from this long form style podcast. I sit here and I do 2 hours improvised, and then I cut that up for a week or two as long as they last, and then I need to come back here and do some more content. So anyway, as I've been saying this entire time, I would like to grow, get some more people involved, and have a bigger, better, tighter program. But you got to start somewhere, right? And this is where we start. If some of you don't know, the song that I had in the intro was by some good buddies of mine called Last to Know. They're a San Diego punk band that formed like 20 years ago. And they got that old school style, screeching weasel-esque, kind of rough around the edges punk sound, which is pretty cool. And some of their music is it's not necessarily political. It's kind of can span ubiquitously across any genre you'd like it to, but it kind of fits that feeling of angst and grittiness that you'd want for like a political show. So that's the song I put up front. They're called Last to Know. Good band out of Southern California. But there we go. There's our intro, folks. Thanks for joining again. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe everywhere. On YouTube, we are at The Good Truth. Twitch, The Good Truth. Here on TikTok, we are The Good Truth Live. Please follow if you can. I think we have a blue sky at The Good Truth. So please don't forget to reach out, send a message, leave comments, all that stuff. And we will continue to try and build on the show and make it better. Now that that's aside, what do we talk about today? I think we have to kind of go over just what happened over the last week. And we're going to take it slow and hopefully do it in bursts of excerpts. Because at some point we might have to bring up some video and kind of reference some of the things that happened this week. So, what happened? Well, Trump still sucks. That's what fucking happened. And in fact, he's gotten fucking worse. That's what happened this week. I think it got started off mainly with the Colombia trade war. He started and ended in a day. Well, I can't even say he started and ended it in a day. I think we kicked off everything with the mass deportations that began. And if I don't lose track of my thought, which I do, ladies and gentlemen, please just understand that I lose track of thought all the time. And I might do it right now. But mass deportations began. And if you remember, the orange turnip, he started all of this by suggesting that the immigrants that have come across our border are a bunch of villains, cretins, psychopaths, and lawbreakers, which they're not. We have loads and loads of data that doesn't just suggest, but that definitively tells us that immigrants of all types, undocumented, documented, all colors, creeds, whatever, immigrants in general commit far less crimes per capita than us as Americans. So literally, the more immigrants we bring in could bring down the crime stats, if you really think about it. But let's not go there for now. Let's go to the point of Donald Trump, the turnip, made us all believe, or his followers, his MAGA moron followers believe that they're all criminals and psychopaths. A, because he originally confused seeking asylum, which is what many of the undocumented immigrants in this country have done. He confused that with an insane asylum, right? Because he's so stupid. And he started doing that in his campaign speeches, talking about like you can just see it, connect the dots. Like he realized they were coming in through asylum processes, and then he started going on stage and saying they're emptying out their insane asylums. Like you could see him connect those dots accidentally, like in the stupidest way throughout his campaign. And so because he misspoke like the idiot he is, he just continued with that rhetoric that these immigrants are coming out of insane asylums, which doesn't even make any sense whatsoever. So as the campaign progressed, he made sure to run on the idea that he's only going to focus on deporting the hardened criminals, the murderers, the rapists, the insane asylum escapees. Those are the people that he's going to focus on. And what happened this week? Well, his press secretary, I can't even remember her name. She's she's just typical Donald Trump plant idiot. She's a good speaker. I'll give you that. She's read up on what's going on, and she goes in front of the camera, in front of the press, and spouts out this detailed script that has already been provided to her, and she's not bad at that. She's not the smartest cookie in the jar. What is her name? Caroline Leavitt. That's her name. Okay. Yeah. So that's what happened. Yeah. She came out in front of the press, and when she was asked if Donald Trump is going to focus on the more hardened criminals of the undocumented migrants that will be deported, she blatantly pushed out the idea that the entire time Donald Trump was campaigning, he was campaigning about putting away undocumented criminals. And since they've all come across the border illegally, they're all criminals. Therefore, those are all the people he's going after. Like just completely twisting every single idea that he perpetuated on his campaign trail. No, they're not going to be deporting the hardened criminal rapists anymore. They're all criminals now, all of them. Therefore, they're just going to blanket deport all the Mexicans. And that's what this is about. They're not going after white undocumented immigrants. Surely there are loads of people from Europe and all around the world that have come here on travel visas and just decided to stay, right? I've seen it happen in my life. I had a buddy who had a friend who was a British immigrant here on a visa that he stayed over, and he actually did get deported. Definitely wasn't under Trump, but he actually did end up getting deported. But the point is, that's not who they're going after. They're going after brown people. That's all this is. That's the whole point. And they're not going after the criminal ones. They're going after all of them. It's just ugly and stupid, and there's no real point to it, considering that by large the undocumented community in this country adds to our economy a lot more so than they remove from it. But so yeah, he began those deportations over these last couple of weeks. There's a lot of videos of people crying, being upset. Mind you, let's remember this. Those figures that Donald Trump said on the campaign trail about having 13 million illegal immigrants, illegals as they like to call them, those numbers aren't real. Those are the most inflated numbers of all time, because a majority of those people that have come over the border over the last 4 years came over under our asylum process, under our legal processes, which makes them non-illegal immigrants. They're just undocumented. I think it's something out of the 13 million, it's I don't know, the majority of that number, which I think isn't a correct number anyway, something like 7 million undocumented, and a majority of those, like 6 million of those, were people that came under the asylum program, which, yes, it's broken. It was broken. I think it's still broken, but they were here legally. And I believe a lot of those people, because the very first thing that happened was that they shut down the asylum process, that people that were waiting for their court dates that were here legally had all their court dates shut down. Now, if you remember Biden's plan that Trump had shut down a couple of years ago, at this point, maybe it's a year ago at this point, that was to bolster the adjudication of all of those cases, because that is the humane way of going about things. It was going to add funding to Border Patrol and add a crap ton of judges in order to catch up with the 4-year backlog of asylum cases. That's the way it should have done in government and in economics. And when you're dealing with millions of people, you don't take a hammer to shit and then try and repair it. You don't rip off the Band-Aid. You do things slowly and with a padded sort of technique, right? You don't want to affect the masses as the turnip has done over these last 2 weeks and cause chaos and havoc, because it doesn't just affect the people, which it always does. It also affects the markets. You know, when there's chaos and fear in the community, there's chaos and fear within the markets, like the stock market, even the crypto markets, like all the markets. Prices go up, stock market takes a dive. Like, you know, it's just chaos that isn't necessary and isn't freaking needed, which is why generally you do things slowly, tactically, and with ease to cause the least amount of casualties possible. So yeah, so we started that. A lot of people getting hurt, a lot of people getting deported that were not criminals. And very first bit of chaos that presided was that with Colombia. And what happened there? I might pull up I don't know if they're tweets, but the messages that the Colombian president sent through that whole interaction. But the gist of it, Donald Trump collected a bunch of Colombian immigrants to deport. They were shackled, mistreated, and thrown on military airplanes and sent to Colombia. Colombia just said, hey, we're not taking them. We're not accepting any more of your planes because our people are arriving being mistreated. These aren't criminals. The only law they broke is a civil law, which was coming into the country undocumented, which is like the lowest of crimes you can possibly commit in this country. Just a civil law, right? They do not deserve to be shackled. They do not deserve to be mistreated, but they were. So the president of Colombia said, you're going to treat my people with respect. We are not accepting those planes. And he sent them back. So Donald Trump, created all the chaos he could, stamped his feet, pouted his face, acted like an idiot like he always does, and said, we're going to tariff the hell out of your country if you don't take our planes, blah, 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 like a petulant child that he is. Typical, stupid, moron shit. And then everybody in this country freaks out, right? Shit. If we're tariffing them, Colombia said they're going to tariff us right back. Double the amount that we were going to tariff them. Donald Trump said, we're going to tariff you 25%. And then they came back and said, well, we're going to tariff you 50%. And the only thing they were asking was to treat their citizens with respect when they're sending them back, right? A lot of people didn't know this in the beginning of this whole mess. So what happens? Well, overnight, everybody started freaking out. Coffee prices were going to go up because, Americans probably drink more Colombian coffee than any other coffee. And I'm sure there are a lot of other exports from Colombia that we ingest, if you will. And so everybody's freaking out. I'm sure there were grocery stores, distributors that already in that one day started raising prices to balance what was about to happen with the tariffs. There's almost no doubt that happened. So then within that overnight period, somehow it was all magically fixed. What changed? Well, Donald Trump and the White House sent out a letter saying, hey, we won this battle of this tariff game. Colombia is bending over and doing everything that we tell them to do, which was not the case. What ended up happening was, after a back and forth between Donald Trump and the Colombian president saying, we're going to do this, 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 they came to an agreement, no tariffs on either side, and the Colombian president is going to send his plane to pick up his people. Right? So that he can guarantee they're being treated well. What does that mean? Did Donald Trump win this war? No, he didn't. He got turned away. He looked like an idiot, like he always does, put his tail between his legs. Plane got sent back home. And then the Colombian president stood up like a man and said, you treat my people with respect or we're going to be in a trade war. And then the agreement was, okay, the U.S. isn't necessarily going to send them on luxury airliners into Colombia, but the president of Colombia is going to send his nice aircraft to pick up his people and treat them with respect. That is not a win on the U.S.'s part. That is not a win on the orange turnips side. That is back to square one is what it is. We are deporting these people and you are taking these people. That's all it is. So all of that chaos and all of that nonsense, the tariffs, everybody freaking out on prices, it affected the markets. It continues to do every time he causes chaos. All for nothing, just to be a ground zero. But he definitely made sure to go out of his way to tell everybody that he won. Because Donald Trump cannot take a loss and consider it a loss. Everything is a win for him, apparently. Let's see if we can take a quick look at those messages from the White House and from the Colombian president. Let's see. I haven't done this before over on TikTok yet. How will this go? Boom. Look at that. I don't even know how to search that. Let's see if we can find it. White House responds. Let's do that. Look at this. There. Okay, this is in quote. So this was coming from the White House right here. Okay, it wasn't as hard as I thought. The government of Colombia has agreed to all of President Trump's terms, including the unrestricted acceptance of illegal aliens from Colombia returned from the United States, including on U.S. military aircraft without limitation or delay. That's new. When was that put out? Because that is not what happened. On deportations, tariff sanctions. Let's check out Reuters. Colombia has agreed to deportation flights. Washington says sanctions threat is on hold. Trump's immigration crackdown, hiking tensions in Latin America. Brazil condemns U.S. handcuffing on migrants on flight. Okay, where is that White House letter? Thank you, everybody who's joined and who is joining. Please don't forget to follow. We will continue to update this program and make the show better, in fact, as time goes along. In fact, at some point, I would like to get to the point to where we can have people call in. I think there's a couple TikTokers out there, like Parker. Oh, no. Did we just lose TikTok? Are we still there? Okay. Parker Get a Job is one of them. There's Dean Withers. He's another one on TikTok where they have people call in and they have debates and stuff like that. Wouldn't mind getting to that point. It's at some point in the show. Not today, obviously. It looks like I'm having trouble finding that White House letter. Let's see. Is that it? No. Jesus. Okay. Well, you're going to have to take my word for it, I suppose. Let's see. Colombian president responds to Trump. He said some amazing things, actually. I was really impressed. I don't recall if they were tweets or if they were published in some other way, but what's his name? Colombia's president, Petro? His name is Petro? His responses were like almost poetic. There's just such a different, like a class difference between the orange turnip and like every other president in the world right now. It's just incredible. If you look at what's been going on, we'll get to that in a second, but the tariffs with Mexico and Mexico's president Sheinbaum, her responses were just incredible, like a real true born leader. Whereas we've got this petulant moron stamping his feet around, pretending like he's a big tough guy, and he's just making everybody hate us, which really sucks. But okay, it was a social media post. Yeah. Is this the whole thing, or is this part of it? You will kill me, but I will survive in my people, which is before yours in the Americas, where are peoples of the winds, the mountains, the Caribbean Sea, and freedom. I wish I had the whole thing. Come on, dude. This is why I need somebody to help me prepare. I need an editor out there. Let's see if we can find the entire thing. Welcome, everybody that's out there. Everybody on Twitch, TikTok. Thank you for coming. Don't forget to follow if you get the chance. Come on. Is this it? Is this it? It's quite long. Oh, geez. This couldn't be it. You will kill. Which one? Perhaps the last. This is freaking long. Okay, this is the full statement. Forgive me if I'm not perfectly articulate. Trump. I don't really like traveling to the U.S. It's a bit boring, but I confess that there are some commendable things. I like going to the black neighborhoods of Washington, where I saw a fight in the U.S. Capitol between blacks and Latinos with barricades, which seemed like no nonsense to me because they should join together. I confess that I like Walt Whitman and Paul Simon and Noam Chomsky and Miller. I confess that Sacco and Vanzetti, who have my blood, are memorable in the history of the USA, and I follow them. They were murdered by labor leaders in the electric chair, by the fascists who are within the USA as well as within my country. I don't like your oil, Trump. It's going to wipe out the human species because of greed. Maybe one day, with a glass of whiskey that I accept despite my gastritis, we can talk frankly about this, but it's difficult because you consider me part of an inferior race, and I'm not, nor is any Colombian. So, if you know someone who is stubborn, that's me, period. You can try to carry out a coup with your economic strength and your arrogance. like they did with Allende. But I will die true to my principles. I resisted torture, and I resist you. I don't want slavers next in Colombia. We already had many, and we freed ourselves. What I want next in Colombia are lovers of freedom. If you can't join me, I'll go elsewhere. Colombia is the heart of the world, and you didn't understand that. This is the land of the yellow butterflies, of the beauty of the remedios, but I also of the colonels like Aureliano Buendia, of which I am one, perhaps the last. You will kill me, but I will survive in my people, which lives before yours in the Americas. We are peoples of the winds, the mountains, the Caribbean Sea, and of freedom. You don't like our freedom, okay. I don't shake hands with white slavers. I shake hands with the white libertarian heirs of Lincoln and the black and white farm boys of the USA, at whose graves I cried and prayed on a battlefield, which I reached after walking the mountains of Italian Tuscany after being saved from COVID. They are the United States, and before them I kneel, before no one else. Overthrow me, Mr. President, and the Americas and humanity will respond. Colombia now stops looking north. It looks at the world. Our blood comes from the blood of Caliphate of Cordoba, the civilization of that time, the Roman Latins of the Mediterranean, the civilization of that time who founded the Republic. Democracy in Athens. Our blood comes from the black resistance fighters turned into slaves by you. Colombia is the first free territory of America before Washington, before all of America, and I take refuge in its African songs. My land is made up of goldsmiths who worked in the time of the Egyptian pharaohs and all of the first artists in the world of Chirbiquete. You will never rule us. You're opposed to the warrior who rode our lands, shouting freedom, whose name is Bolivar. Our people are somewhat fearful, somewhat timid. They are naive and kind, loving, but they know how to win the Panama Canal, which you took from us with violence. 200 heroes from all of Latin America lie in the Bocas del Toro, today's Panama, formerly Colombia, which you murdered. I raise a flag, and as Jorge Eliezer Gatain, I'm murdering those names, as he said, even if it remains alone, it will continue to be raised with the Latin American dignity that is the dignity of America, which your great-grandfather did not know, and mine did, Mr. President, an immigrant in the USA. Your blockade does not scare me because Colombia, beside being the country of beauty, is the heart of the world. I know that you love beauty as I do. Do not respect it, and it will give its sweetness to you. From today on, Colombia is open to the entire world with open arms. We are builders of freedom, life, and humanity. Incredible. Incredible words, right? It's poetry. That entire message to the orange turnip, which he didn't even deserve. He doesn't deserve to hear or read or gaze his eyes upon such beautiful words. He doesn't deserve that because he's just a nasty creep. And sure, that there's an awful lot wrong with Latin America in general. Corruption, the systems that they employ in their democracies, if you want to call them all democracies. Probably can't, especially when you're talking about Venezuela. But they're not perfect, just as ours are not perfect. But I tell you this, the Colombian president showed him up with such class and beauty in this short little non-transaction between the turnip and him. It was beautiful. And what did we give them in response? The next day after it was all solved, and they decided to send their planes to pick up their immigrants, and the tariffs were over. It was overnight. Nothing changed, but Donald Trump claims victory. And the Donald Trump media, Fox News, what's the other one? Newsmax, I think, something like that. They didn't speak of these amazing words that the Colombian president sent back to us. His complete resistance to all these stupid suggestions that the orange turnip made. They didn't say any of that stuff. They just said, guess what? America wins. I think we're having connection issues again on TikTok. There we go. They just said, guess what? America wins. Trump did it. Trump won this little tiny battle. No, he didn't, man. And he also didn't win with the rest of the world, because the rest of the world gets to actually see and hear the real news. They actually got to read that excerpt from the Colombian president, and they laugh at us. They laugh at him. And that's how we lose our power in this country, is from nobody taking us serious, right? From this stupid orange moron causing chaos, hurting his own people, being responded to and shot the hell down by far less economically large country. It's completely shown up. But what do we get as Americans? We get the propaganda version, right? What the White House tells us happened, right? We don't get that amazing letter, right? We don't get to read, hear, and understand that kind of communication. We just get to hear, go America, yeah, tractors and trucks and douchebags, yeah. But for that 24-hour period between Colombia, it just showed what a real leader looks like. It's definitely not our guy. It definitely is not our guy, which in turn is quite sad. Beautiful words from the Colombian president, and a little more shame from our side. So yeah, that was like the first thing that happened, right? Mass deportations, Donald Trump not keeping his word about only deporting hardened criminals, and a 24-hour trade war with Colombia. Good times so far. I don't even know the linear nature of what happened this week, because it's part of their game plan is to just throw chaos. One of the media outlets I appreciate the most is the Midas Touch Network. I'm sure some of you who are here, thank you everybody who's joined. Don't forget to follow. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Midas Touch Network. They now like to call the orange turnip the WMD, the weapon of mass distraction. Because essentially at the end of the day, that's all of this is, right? Fake trade wars, constant chaos, keeping us tuned in to our computers and our TVs 24 hours a day to see what erupts from this chaos. Oh, excuse me. At the end of the day, it is a distraction. Because what are they doing? Well, we're talking about these bullshit things that they create. They've taken our government. They're taking our rights. They're funneling as much money as they possibly can into their own pockets. And we get to be distracted by all this chaos and nonsense. It's just a program he's played before, and now he's doing it like on speed run. You know what I mean? You know, he's not going to be reelected unless, you know, they change the Constitution as well somehow. So he doesn't give a shit. He can just do whatever the hell he wants. He's not beholden to anybody, because now the Supreme Court has given him full immunity over anything he does in his position, which gives him the power to break the law, to tear things apart, to cause all this chaos and disruption, which ends up hurting people, right? Which reminds me, that was like day 2 after the Colombian trade bullshit. What was the next thing he did? He pulled federal aid from government programs. So we can switch back. Yeah, he cut federal aid to government programs. Don't remember the exact gist of it. It was another 24-hour process, which ended up cutting people's medical benefits, SNAP benefits, like public programs where people rely on for getting groceries for their children to help make ends meet, to get the care that they need. And they just froze the funding, right, out of nowhere. And there were a lot of people, especially in red states, who rely on these programs who got screwed. Again, it was a 24-hour period. Judges clapped back almost instantly, notifying him of its illegality, not going through the proper processes. A lot of chaos ensued, and the next day it was returned, not to really fix anything. As a matter of fact, what's her name? That stupid press secretary that he has. I can't even remember her name. I choose not to, actually. Thank you for joining the live. Don't forget to follow if you get the chance. What is that dumb secretary's name? I can't remember. The blonde girl. There's a little bit of trouble there. After that funding freeze, the White House backed out and said, "Okay, we're not doing a funding freeze." And then she went back in front of the press and said, "Look, it's still going. All we've done is rescinded the memo stating that we're going to be putting a government freeze on these programs. But in fact, the process is still ongoing," which caused a whole lot more chaos and a bunch of lawsuits to the White House. And that was one of her big faux pas, because that's going to cost the government a whole lot of money, this error, because, of course, they're not going through the proper channels. They're not going through Congress. They are just making these direct orders and hurting people. Hey, if you're on TikTok right now, please let me know. I see on my side it keeps cutting out from time to time. I'm not sure if I'm getting a constant stream over there on TikTok or if it's actually pausing and stopping. If you can, let me know. Also, don't forget to follow. I think we're only up to like 178, trying to get to 1,000. So yeah, there we are. Colombian trade war, 24 hours. Federal funding freeze, 24 hours. Both of those got slapped down. Donald Trump considered it a win when it wasn't. And then what happens? Dude, this is fucking 1 week. It blows my mind. Plane crashes. Planes start fucking crashing everywhere, falling out of the damn sky from left to right. You can't write this shit. It should be, if you put all this in a book in the span of a 1 week time, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's fiction. Yeah, that's a good writer, but it's complete fiction. Planes start crashing. We had the accident in D.C. where a military helicopter crashed into an airliner, killing 67 people, right? First thing the turnip does is go on TV, which is so awful. What a disgusting human being. And he politicizes it. It's just like what he did with the California fires. All of that shit's been proven. And any of you people are Trumpers out there right now watching this shit, F you. All of that shit was debunked. What Trump was saying about the California wildfires, turning on some sort of spigot that can give us water that we routed into the ocean. Like, all that bullshit has been debunked now, right? Like, have you not figured out that Donald Trump only lies about shit? He only lies about everything to help his political agenda. And then it gets debunked, and then you all forget about it because you're stupid, okay? And then you believe the next thing that he says because you're stupid. And then he lies again, and you believe that one, but you've forgotten about the last 3 lies because he says, we're going to get all the brown people. And you're like, yeah, we're racist. We hate brown people. Oh, good job, Trump. He's really doing everything he said. No, he's not. He's taking your freaking money. He's hurting innocent people. He's hurting the economy already. And he's just fucking lying to you. And you still believe him. You dumb fucks. Anyway, the planes crash, right? Planes are going down left and fucking right in this country. He goes on air. He blames DEI. He blames Biden. He blames Pete Buttigieg, the former transportation secretary. Who else did he blame? I'm pretty sure he blamed everybody in the world that has nothing to do with him. Whatever. On the immediately after the crash, he does that, which is the same thing he did with the fires. After everybody's lost their homes, people have lost their lives, he goes on TV and he goes, it's my enemy's fault. It's Newsom's fault. It's that guy's fault. It's that guy's fault. It has nothing to do with me. I'm the only one that can fix it. I'm your daddy. I'm your daddy. Whatever. Piece of fucking shit, that guy. And he does the same thing with his plane crash. And the funny thing is, you can always tell when Trump is potentially to blame for something, or at least has his hand in whatever the issue is when he immediately comes out and starts pointing fingers at everybody else. Right? So when you really connect the dots, when it comes to that airliner accident that killed 67 people, crashed into the Army helicopter, it wasn't DEI. It wasn't wokeness. It wasn't Biden's fault. It wasn't Pete Buttigieg's fault. It wasn't Michelle Obama's fault, because somehow she was probably to blame too. It turns out that first thing that they did when the turnip got into office was Elon Musk helped push out the director of the FAA, right? The Federal Aviation Association. I think that's what it is. They pushed him out. They pushed him out of his job immediately. The highest top guy in the FAA, they pushed him out of his job. Why'd they do that? Elon Musk had a problem with the guy because the director of the FAA has docked Elon Musk about $600,000 in fees over the course of some years for him, for SpaceX not following through with regulation, right? So Elon Musk doesn't like him. That guy cost me money. I don't like him. Fire him, Donald Trump. Okay, they fired the head of the FAA. They also froze hiring of new public employees for the FAA, as well as other areas of our government. And, well, it turns out that the people at the tower that were likely responsible for this crash were overworked, right? Had nothing to do with DEI. There wasn't somebody behind the air traffic control that wasn't good at his job. There was a guy that was doing a job that requires 2 or 3 people, and they froze hiring for the FAA. They kicked out the director of the FAA. All the shit that they did kind of comes in line with the idea that, hey, there's not enough support here to keep planes from crashing into each other. Like there's an automatic through line that you can see just based on what the actions that they've took, right? On day 1, you cancel out all the FAA shit. On day 2, planes crash, right? We haven't had an airliner accident like that since 9/11, right? What has it been, 16 years or something, or 14 years? Something like, since 9/11, we have not had an accident like that with an airliner. And then we have one a few days into, or a week into the Tariffs presidency. I mean, it's obvious. And that's why when he goes on TV and blames everybody else except for himself, takes no responsibility for anything, that's how you know it's partially his fault. When he goes and he points fingers immediately and he politicizes it immediately. And you get right back into the DEI thing. I mean, the whole thing is complete bullshit from the bottom up. It is just another dog whistle for racism, which is just emboldening people in this country to feel okay to publicly be racist. I mean, we're going to have to get into the Elon Musk Nazi, Yahtzee. Did we say Yahtzee? I think that's what we're supposed to say. His salute in a little bit. But all that shit was debunked. There's been a lot of people in the media talking about it, that mostly DEI initiatives are done by companies which tend to help the communities that they're in, bringing all sorts of people and giving them work, right? That doesn't hurt people, that only helps people. And generally when you're talking about jobs of a higher aptitude, that's their excuse on the right, is that it is affecting these sorts of situations like at the FAA, when you take a DEI hire into these higher positions with higher necessity for aptitude, that people get harmed by it, when in reality, like an air traffic controlman requires loads and loads and loads of testing to even get near that position. So even if DEI allowed some variation in applicants for that job, they're still required to pass rigorous testing in order to be able to facilitate a job like that. It doesn't matter. DEI is not actually utilized in those super high technical positions anywhere. In government, in business, it's just not. In areas where you can find people of a multitude of facets of life, for that all have the qualifications for this one job, that's generally when DEI comes into play, right? A white guy can do this job, a black guy can do this job, a handicapped guy can do this job, a woman can do this job. All of them can potentially have the same education. Like, they're all potential applicants, right? There you go. That's DEI. It's not like, hey, let's take this lower educated female and put her at this really, really technical job, even though there's a white guy who has the qualifications that should be there. That is not what DEI is. So all this bullshit around it and about it is just a total racist dog whistle. That's all it is. DEI is actually helpful and good for our economy, for the neighborhoods that they're most utilized in, for communities in general, and Trump is an asshole. So yeah, plane crashes. Trump blames everybody in the world except for himself after basically shutting down the FAA some days prior to that. Then right after that, another plane crash the next day. I don't think we have any information really on what went down for that second plane crash. There's a plane that went down in Philadelphia, crashed right into a mall, and it was a medevac plane, which had a 5-year-old child on board who has just received life-saving care. And that child's aide was also on the plane, along with pilot's crew, and I believe it had just refilled in Philadelphia at the airport nearby and took a nosedive crash right into this mall. I haven't heard the latest on that. It doesn't appear like the airline crash to be an FAA issue. Could just be a freak accident. But then the day after that, there was yet another crash in the middle of a highway. Like, what the F is going on? Like, there's some connection to all of Donald Turnip's firings and cancellations of FAA shit and these like daily plane crashes we're having now. I'd like to see if we can look at that video real quick. Let's take a quick look. just spelled Philadelphia wrong. Okay. Is that the one there? Maybe that's the one. Okay. So, I don't know how well you can see that footage. I'm sure many of you have seen this already. Is this showing on my screen here? Have I had, crap, I've had the wrong one up the whole time. Let me fix this issue real quick. There we go. All right, yeah. I don't know if this video has sound either. I'm not hearing it, but see that plane right there? Right at the top of the screen. You see that lower arc that it has? I know it's probably hard to see at home. That downward arc, and it is kind of lit up. Again, I haven't heard the recent news because there's been so much crazy, crappy, orange turn-up shit in the news every single day that once we have a disaster, the next day it's completely overshadowed by another disaster, be it economic or other. So one of the first people to comment on this crash, the day of the crash, was a pilot of the same type of jet that crashed into that mall. And he kept going back to the idea that it was probably a stall, right? And when an aviation stall, right? When that's basically when you lose forward momentum to the point to where the plane stops being able to create lift, right? So a lot of times on a smaller aircraft, if you pull up for too long, right, you lose that forward momentum by going up like this, and then the plane goes like this, and it begins to fall like, toward the ground as gravity would pull it. It doesn't have any more lift from the wings. So a pilot who originally commented on this crash said that it's possible that they had a stall. A lot of times when you have a stall, you're falling kind of ass first, generally. When you're on a jet like this, I'm not so sure. But when he was commenting that, and I kept watching this footage on repeat, I couldn't help but notice the downward arc that this plane has. It's as if, and the speed that it's at as well. And I think somebody finally calculated it, that it was like 14,000 feet per second, which by the looks of its height, 13,000 feet is probably where it's at when you see it in frame at the beginning of this video. And it takes about a second for it to reach the ground. 1, 2, maybe 2 seconds. So that's enough speed to create lift under the wings of that jet, right? And if you look at that downward arcing angle of that jet, it does not look like somebody was trying to pull back on the yoke and create lift. Somebody also mentioned that it looked like there was some brightness to the aircraft, that maybe the fuselage caught on fire or something like that. And that's kind of what I want to lean toward. There's some sort of malfunction. There was a fire, and it looks as though somebody abandoned the controls and allowed the plane to go into a downward fall. There was nobody pulling back. There was nothing trying to create lift. And apparently that type of jet actually has, I guess, the way the wings are, if it loses power, it does have a really incredible ability to coast back to the ground, right? Obviously, you have to maintain a certain speed, but it does have that capability to coast back down. And it does not look in this video as though anybody was attempting to do that. Okay, just got a notification there on TikTok. Live will end in 4 minutes. How do I do that? How do I do that? It's not letting me. Okay, I have to see if I can fix it. No. I don't know how to fix this. Is it going to kill my live on TikTok? There we go. All right. Yeah, if you're watching on TikTok, I do believe I'm seeing interruptions. Please let me know in the comments, in the chat, if you see any interruptions. Also, don't forget to follow me if you get the chance. But yeah, there we go. So, as I was saying, it appears as though that particular horrific incident was not caused by air traffic controllers by any means. Something obviously went horribly wrong, and it does not look like a stall. Something happened in that cockpit and forced the controls downward. Otherwise, you would see somebody trying to pull up on the yoke, trying to recover a stall or any sort of malfunction, which should give the jet some lift. And since it was arcing downward like that, it would kind of show that the controls were pushed forward, and it was at full speed. So that was an awful incident. I think it was just the day after the DC airline crash. And, you know, it's no surprise. Donald Trump he doesn't have any involvement in that second crash. He almost certainly does in the first one. But it's like this world under his governance is just a fucking mess. It's just chaos, left and right. So, yeah, we have a couple of days, deportations, Colombia tariff war, plane crash, and then immediately goes right into more tariffs against our neighbors, right? Donald Trump, being the complete tool bag he is trying to attack our very neighbors. Let's look at this. Canada. So, what do we get in return for Donald Trump completely pissing off everybody that once respected us? Well, they're booing us now at hockey games. That's what's happening.
From one hotel room.
Uh-oh. What do we have?
This is the game changer. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
Ooh, that was a direct boo. That's what we get from our neighbors in Canada. And I did, what I'm about to show you, I did see on another social media platform's video. I don't know why I phrased it like that. Another network's video, the comparison of how Canada is reacting to our national anthem now and how they used to react to our national anthem. Let's see if we can find that video. Oh man, I don't even know if I can find this video because it's completely totally fans. Oh, there we go. Have a look at this. So, I guess, you know, obviously before the Orange Turnip was in office, there was a hockey game in Canada where they were singing the national anthem and the mic started cutting out. But the fans, the Canadians, our beloved neighbors, they finished the song for her. They know our national anthem. They've heard it 1,000 times at hockey games, you know, of course, but they know it. They're our neighbors, are our friends, and they helped, patriotically helped her finish our national anthem.
And the rockets red flare, the bombs bursting in air, gave the
Man, I've got to turn off these TikTok notifications. That is annoying. What a difference, right? Shall we go back to the one before? Oh, God, I had that commercial. Let's see if it plays.
This is Turkey. Turkey is...
Yeah, what a massive difference. It's kind of incredible to watch the second video we just saw of a completely different country. There we go. Other than our own, singing our national anthem, like all together. Like patriots for us, simply when a woman's mic stopped working. It's wonderful, right? What an amazing moment. And to go from that to this, it's just awful. There's no other word for it. It's just awful. It shouldn't be happening. Why did that happen? Well, for absolutely no reason whatsoever. The turnip decided to implement 25% tariffs on Mexico and on Canada, and then a 10% tariff on China. Now, if you remember, I'm not sure how well you remember this, but the turnip's entire campaign, the 2 years early campaign, began on China, China, China. China's bad. We've got to take China and we've got to hurt China because they're taking all our money. Like it was all anti-China stuff, right? Of course, he would never, ever, ever say anything bad about Xi, the dictator over there, because, you know, he loves dictators and he hates our political friends. But it was all about China and how bad they are and they're, you know, taking away all our money. But he only, you know, implements a 10% tariff to China, whereas there's a 25% tariff put on Canada and Mexico. And it seemed like a lot of what happened after that was an afterthought. So clearly that disrupted the markets. A lot of people thought that that idea of the tariff would go away, that he wouldn't actually implement it. And then once again, the day before it was time to implement the tariffs, he goes on TV or makes his statements or whatever it is, and He says, yep, I'm still doing it. We're keeping the tariffs on. They're going in tomorrow. And then the stock market just takes a giant dump after him saying that, because we don't have any real reason to be tariffing these countries. Why does he say he's doing it? Well, previous to, I think today, he was mainly claiming that the majority of the reason was for the trade disparity, right? I think there was like he claims a $200 billion trade disparity between us and Canada, which really, I mean, it's obvious that would happen because we have, much higher population. So we're going to consume more things from Canada than they consume from us, right? That's just kind of the way things go. But in fact, it all comes out in the wash since we need and utilize a lot of very important materials and items from Canada. They have large forests, they have a large forestry department, and we get a lot of our lumber from Canada. We get a lot of is it steel? I think it's steel from Canada. And we get a lot of energy from Canada in the form of oil, predominantly. They created hard crude oil, whereas hard crude oil, is that what it's called? Whereas we create light crude oil. So we do require a good amount of their energy. So it definitely all comes out in the wash. So using this excuse that and I'm using the wrong word because my brain doesn't always work, but using the idea that we have a trade disparity between Canada is just moronic. He's just looking for more reasons to put his foot down and act like a tough guy to try and get things that he wants, because it's not what we want. It's definitely not what the people want. It's something he wants. And also, he threw out that rhetoric again of trying to get Canada to be the 51st state, which is moronic. And that's how we get into these situations where all of Canada is now booing us, where they used to be such good friends. So, yeah, so he went in and put the 25% tariffs. He said it was happening. Stock market took a giant crash, and this is something I want you to pay attention to, okay? It's a tangent I'm taking right now, and I hope I don't forget my train of thought, but this is something that these rich robber barons like to do. They love a good stock market crash. It's the same thing in the crypto market. People like Elon Musk love it when Doge actually tanks because it's just pure manipulation, right? The whales, this is what they're called. I don't know how many people out there are understanding of trading terminology, but the people with the most money that trade stocks and crypto are called whales. And they love a good crash because it's a good time for them to pick up all those assets for cheap, right? For instance, this is what pisses me off about the crypto community and why they love Elon so much, because Elon is literally stealing from them every single time he does this. But Elon Musk he chose Doge as his favorite crypto because it's based on a meme. It's the only reason. Elon Musk doesn't really think too deeply into things. He's a child. But he chose Doge as his favorite crypto. And with what such a big following that he has, it got to the point to where every time he mentioned the word Doge in the marketplace or on Twitter or wherever he decided to mention the word Doge, there'd be a massive spike in buyers of Doge. So the price would go up massively. So it just became this constant back and forth where Elon Musk would buy a bunch of Doge when it's low and then go on TV or on Twitter and just simply say Doge. He did this on SNL once. He said Doge. And now, obviously, as we all know, he named this non-government department, the Department of Government Efficiency, after Doge, which was another whistle for people to buy Doge. And this is his manipulation, his tricks, and his scam that he pulls on his people, the people that follow him and appreciate and love him, the people in the crypto industry who rely on him essentially, and like little pets wait for the day that he says Doge again so their crypto can go up a little bit. Meanwhile, he's buying it all low. He's waiting for it to get low, buying it, a lot of it low, saying the word Doge out loud a bunch of times. All of his little minions buy it, and they spend their money as it goes up at higher and higher prices. His little minions continue to buy it as it rises, and then it gets to a pretty high level, and then Elon Musk dumps it. That means he cashes out, makes a bunch of money, and he's essentially stealing that money from all of his fans, all the people that love him that were buying it as the price was going up. So then he dumps off his supply, waits for it to go down low again, buys a bunch of it up, and then he says Doge again. And it goes up and then he sells it. This is a way for them to rip you off. It's the way he rips off his own community. And it's sad to me because I have been involved in crypto for quite some time. And all of these people see this. They look up to him like some sort of god. Like the way MAGA morons look up to Trump. And like they just hope and wait and wish for him to say Doge again so their coins can go up in value, without ever once realizing he's the guy taking your money, you morons. And so there's this idea that a lot of this chaos that's happening in the turnip regime, the orange turnip government regime, there's all this chaos and it crashes the market. It's good for them, right? It's good for all these stock traders. So Trump surely has investment companies and his own groups that are buying and selling and trading stocks and, you know, creating chaos, I'm sure he knows about it. I'm sure he has advisors that are letting him know that the second he puts in those tariffs, the stock market's going to take a crash. And he's very likely selling at the top, creating market manipulation, putting in these tariffs, watching the market crash, and then buying them at a discount. Essentially, that's how a lot of these people make money, especially insiders. And there's no doubt that the scammer in chief is doing just that. So yeah, let's get into it. The tariffs, 25% tariffs. He was claiming it was for those aforementioned reasons, because he wants Canada to be the 51st state, because we have trade disparity. Not disparity, it's the wrong fucking word, but you know what I mean. And then after he puts the tariff through, after the stock market crashes, after people freak out, then he goes and says, oh, the real reason is because of the fentanyl coming through the Canadian border. That's why we're tariffing Canada. That's why I'm causing all this chaos, because of all the fentanyl coming over the Canadian border. He even had that stupid press secretary come out and on freaking TV in front of the press say that tens of millions of Americans were dying from fentanyl overdose, which was a fucking massive lie. First of all, 0.02% of fentanyl comes over the Canadian border, okay? Like almost none, right? I think this has been on the news almost everywhere. It's something akin to a briefcase filled with fentanyl. That's the amount of fentanyl coming over the Canadian border each year. Like none, right? And his press secretary said there's tens of millions of deaths, when in fact, over like the last 4 or 5 years, there was 1 million, I think it was more than that even, there was 1 million total deaths in the U.S. of overdoses of all drugs combined, right? Like 1 million. But she goes in front of the press, the presidential press secretary, and tells everybody that tens of millions of people are dying every year of fentanyl, which is not even true. It's completely false. By all means, there is data on this, and it's just a lie, because he just wants to continue to further his agenda. So when you break that down, you really get into that nitty gritty. Then why the fuck did he do those tariffs on Canada? There's no reason. 51st state. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, right? Fucking the trade disparity. It doesn't matter. It all comes out in the wash. It makes no difference. It's literally nothing. I hate when people say a nothing burger, but it's that. It's a nothing burger, right? And then when you get into the fentanyl issue, there's like zero fentanyl coming over the Canadian border. It's just this stupid man creating distractions, pounding his fists on the table, and most likely being involved in buying low stock prices after he manipulates the market with these chaos methods. That's my personal belief anyway. And so again, what happens, right? We have 2 tariffs going through, Mexico and Canada. We have Scheinbaum, who is just an incredible leader. Let me see if I can bring something up of her, who handled the idea of these tariffs wonderfully. I mean, just like the Colombian president. I mean, she didn't quite write such a beautiful, articulate, and eloquent speech as the Colombian president did, but I mean, she handled things like a pro. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if I can find an example. Look at this woman. Trump hates a female leader. Trump hates the idea of a strong female leader. God damn it, TikTok. Stop it. Enough. Jesus. Trump hates a strong female leader, doesn't he? He's definitely threatened by women. He feels inferior to just about everybody. That's why I think he has so many issues. But especially he has issues with women, which is beyond me. Take a look at this. We're not going to play this entire video, but
Está aquí el secretario de Economía. Es importante.
we're just going to scrub through this if we can.
No sé si ustedes tenían ese dato,
Here we
pero
have
pues les van a subir el 25% sus computadoras.
another speaker. Come on, internet, you can do it. There we have another speaker.
Sobre el tema, tenemos todos estos días, quizás desde diciembre.
We
con
have
este
the press
anuncio
asking
de-
questions. This is just what I want to point out here. Look at what we have in this picture. We've got a PowerPoint presentation. We've got Scheinbaum sitting at a podium. There's a cameraman there. A load of press. And a beautiful building, mind you. And 3 or 4 speakers off to the side. Behind them, as you noticed before, you saw, I think we saw it, they've got a PowerPoint presentation going on. And they're explaining, there we go, look at this. They're explaining to the public what's going on in the world, what's going on with these potential tariffs. They're explaining in great detail the cost and the effects of what the tariffs will do, and how they're going to react to these tariffs, and how they're going to react to the orange turnip himself, right? This is like a masterclass in how a government and a leader should run. Yes, we all know Mexico has its issues. It has for a very, very long time. AMLO, the last president before her, was quite a good president. He removed a lot of corruption in Mexico's politics. Scheinbaum is his protege. She was just elected, and she's doing the same thing. She's kind of rooting out a lot of the corruption within Mexico, and she's doing a really good job. Everybody there loves her, and she's just a very smart lady. And my point is this. Our guy, he goes on TV, he points fingers, and he blames everybody else on the planet for largely what are his mistakes. He stamps his feet. He says, we're big, tough, and strong. We're going to take whatever we want. And he sends out his press secretary to lie to us, right? Which we should all be angry about. You Trumpers should be angry about the fact that he lies to you. He manipulates you. He hurts the market and then takes your money. Right? You should be mad at him for this. Meanwhile, we look at the Mexican president who handled the situation with class and grace and ease and transparency. Right? She didn't send out a press secretary to lie to the public about what's going on. She didn't do that. She had an hours-long PowerPoint presentation showing her people what is going on, what it causes, how it affects the government and them and their pocketbooks, and how they're going to deal with it. Have you ever seen Trump do a 3-hour intelligent, informational PowerPoint presentation? No, and you never will. Have you ever seen him bring on other professionals to come and help guide the public through and understand what's going on in these situations? No, and you never will. He lies. He confuses. He hurts. Edit has joined the live. Hey, Edit. Let me know. My TikTok feed seems to be going in and out, and I can't tell if it's stopping and then starting and then stopping and starting on your end. So let me know if you experience any of that. Anyhow, and that's it. That's the grand difference between a good leader and a bad leader. And fortunately for Mexico, it seems that they have a really good leader at the moment. And, well, you know what we have. So, I mean, you could say similar things about Trudeau in Canada. He's a decent speaker. He's kind of a pushover as far as leaders go. He's bent the knee a few times to the orange turnip and conceded already and not really shown a lot of strength and fortitude. He really likes to play the game of diplomacy, but that is still what a good leader does. All of this stuff that's happened over the last few days with these tariffs, with Colombia, all of it could have been solved with simple, there we go, with simple diplomacy, right? Because we didn't gain anything. We gained absolutely nothing. Trump didn't get his way. Trump didn't get what he wanted by threatening these tariffs. Now he's claiming that the whole reason he was doing this was as a threat to get his way, when in fact everything just went back to square one, just like it did with Colombia. What was gained in Colombia? Absolutely nothing was gained in Colombia. They went, oh my God, they just went back to square one. So when it came to Mexico and the tariffs, what did we get in return? Well, we destroyed the markets. Everybody freaked out. Almost guaranteed that vendors, stores, importers already raised prices just in that short few days with the expectation of these tariffs. So those price hikes are already coming to us, and they're very likely not going to be removed. That's not how business works. Once you raise prices, you kind of stay at that level, and then you just kind of expect that one day wages will catch up, and then you raise prices again. So he's very much, just in a short time, probably caused more pain to our pocketbooks. But what did he get in return? So obviously, the fentanyl crisis was mostly happening in the Mexican border. And if you look at the data, which, the Republic cucks, they don't like data, they don't like reality, they don't like truth. Most of the fentanyl comes over our border from our people. They're a lot less conspicuous, so it's generally Americans that are bringing those types of drugs over the border. Most of the time they just get waved through, passed on through. Hey, there's a white American guy. Hey, let me check your ID. All right, looks good. Go ahead through. That's the guy that's bringing in pounds of fentanyl. Not the super brown guy. Not the super brown guy that's in an old beat up truck that doesn't speak any English, white knuckling it across the border with loads of fentanyl. And it's not the guy that's bringing it over. It's our people that's bringing it over. But anyway, so what did we get in return? He threatened the tariffs. Both Canada and Mexico have since come to an agreement, right? I believe now the tariffs are on hold or on pause for 30 days while these discussions are being made. And what did Mexico agree to, right? To pause these tariffs, right? All this bullshit for nothing could have been just done with a couple of phone calls and making some agreements. Instead, he destroys the stock market, puts all of us through shit for absolutely no fucking reason, which is why I mentioned a minute ago, I'm sure there was a stock market manipulation purpose that he's behind. Anyway, what did we get in return? Okay, Mexico's going to put 10,000 of their troops on the border to help sift through and find people bringing over fentanyl, right? Wow, that sounds like a win, Trump. Good job. You threatened 25% tariffs, and now they're going to strengthen their side of the border. Well, no, not really. Actually, I think they said 15,000 they're going to put. But Sheinbaum, being the brilliant leader that she is, let me go ahead and change this screen here. She actually is also getting us to put in our resources to stop the illegal gun trade into Mexico in return, right? So that seems like a quid pro quo, right? I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I put 15,000 troops to stop fentanyl coming through. You put 15,000 troops to stop the gun trade. That seems like a fair deal, right? That's great because nobody and never in this country has anybody ever brought up the idea that a lot of the cartel issues in Mexico come from our guns, right? That shit's out of control because we're the mass manufacturer of firearms, and that shit's getting brought over their border and arming the bad guys. And Sheinbaum brought this issue to the public light before these tariffs were going through and before all this shit started going down, maybe a couple of months ago. She reminded the world, look, dude, we don't care. You want to put tariffs on us because you think our drugs are getting over there? Your guns are the ones killing my people. So finally, I mean, it's quite amazing, really, that she's gotten the turnip to agree to help put enforcers on our border to stop that illegal gun trade going into Mexico. That's amazing. But at the end of the day, did Turnip do a great job? Did Turnip, his tactical skills of pushing tariffs on our neighbors and friends, did it actually get us forward? Did it help us? No. It got our friends to hate us. And he basically made the same exact agreement that Biden was already making with Mexico before Trump got into office. This is already on paper. This is already written down. It's almost the same exact agreement to get more Mexican border agents over on the border to do the same exact thing. Except now Mexico got our guys to help stop the gun trade. Seems like Mexico won this deal and not quite us. But of course, you know, the first thing Trump's White House does is put out a presser saying that we're the big winners. We're the big winners. We won this trade war. We didn't. We're actually giving more than what was previously agreed to. It's almost the same exact deal. It's not even just zero, right? It's not a zero-sum game where everything's back to square one. Now we're actually putting in money to stop the illegal gun trade. So we're giving more after this tariff deal. Same thing with Canada, right? I think Canada did add quite a few things. Canada, in order to stop the tariffs, at least for these 30 days while they, figure it out, he's creating a fentanyl czar, right? An agent to head the task force in stopping the fentanyl trade into the United States. And he's putting stricter borders and bringing more agents to his border. There's a few things that he added into what they will do to suppress the fentanyl trade into the United States. And I got to turn off those notifications. So, fuck. So, I guess they're outputting a little bit more. But essentially, from the things that I've read, it's a zero-sum game. Again, Trump doesn't win shit. He pisses off two countries. Nothing of benefit happened, and we go back to square one. Especially because there's literally almost no fentanyl coming from the Canada border over to the United States. So what has he accomplished? Nothing. But I will tell you again, like I just mentioned, Mexico actually won more in this deal by getting us to help stop the gun trade. But we lose on the Canada deal too. There are reports of Canadians all over stopping of buying of American products, right? They're all banding together during this time because we treated them like such shit over the last couple of weeks with these idle threats and this bullshit rhetoric coming from Trump. As we saw earlier, they're booing our national anthem at hockey games now. Like we fucked around with our best friends that have always been there for us in every single war, that had our backs with no questions asked, and now we've turned them against us. One of the ministers, I think in Ontario, is part of the retaliatory tariffs. He put out an APB essentially telling all Canadians to stop buying American products, stop buying American whiskey, stop buying anything American, and buy Canadian. They were taking American products off of the shelves. And even after the tariffs were removed today, there were reports of grocery stores in Canada being filled to the brim and with shopping carts full of people buying only Canadian products. So that's what I'm getting at here too, is it wasn't a zero-sum game, this stupid threat of a tariff and then getting what he wanted by getting more security at the border. Maybe there's a little bit of gain there, but at the end of the day, we lose because Canada is mad. The people there hate us now, and now they're refusing to buy American products, which is just a net loss for us all the way down the board. We did not win anything. We lost in both situations via Mexico and Canada because Trump is such a moron. Anyway, cheers to Shine Bomb. Cheers to the president of Colombia. Cheers to Canada. We deserve it. Our people are a bunch of dumb fucks now. We got a moron in chief, and we still got people cheering for him and with their cognitive bias thanking him for all that he's done already, which is nothing more than just really, really hurting our friends and neighbors and the very people in this country. What's next? Should we take a look at Elon? Should we take a look at Elon Cuck? What are they calling him now? They're calling Teslas swastikars. Apparently people are selling their Teslas in droves right now because of his antics at the inauguration. But more than anything, a lot of the fanatics, the Trump fanatics and the Elon fanatics are just making plain excuses for what he's done. A lot of people are posting similar images to the Roman salute that Elon did, but with Democrats in that same position. And there are a lot of Trump supporters who have gone on TikTok and gone on social medias and actually done the Roman salute. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to turn this shit off. And lost their jobs, right? So why don't we take a look at Elon's salute? Can we find it? Let's see.
There are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important, some are not. But this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. Thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
I want to make notice to this moment right here. Look at his thumb. I know it's kind of hard to see, but look at his thumb right there. Okay? Everybody's claiming this was not a Yahtzee. This was not a Yahtzee salute. That it was not a Roman salute. That he has Asperger's and he didn't know any better. That he was excited. Right? And they're making excuses because, of course, the cognitive bias. And this is like the one thing that the turnip supporters do most is they have absolutely no ability. Oh my fucking God. They have absolutely no ability to see past their own nose. To call a spade, if you will. Everything is, they've already made their decision. They've stuck with it. And there's absolutely nothing that they can do or say to sway them from their position or ever realizing, oh shit, I think we fucked up. I think we made a mistake. No. No, these people are God, there's just not enough. There's not enough words. They're just such fucking idiots that they'll never actually be able to see these things. It's funny too. Joe Rogan went on air after this Yahtzee salute, and we could probably find that video. And he said he was making the connection that it's really funny because all these people, they want to believe it's a Yahtzee salute. This is what Joe Rogan is saying. They want to believe it so much that that's what they see, even though he's not really doing it, right? That was Joe Rogan's setup for why this is not a Yahtzee salute. Mind you, Joe Rogan and Elon Musk are like bros. And that's what got Joe Rogan down this Republican rabbit hole anyway, was becoming friends with this guy. Joe Rogan got super rich. He became a rich guy. He became friends with the richest guy in the world. And it's his own cognitive bias, which is why there's absolutely nothing Elon can do now to make Joe Rogan dislike him. Because Joe Rogan he's in the billionaire boys club now. You know what I mean? It's clear what's happening. The funniest thing about his suggestion that anti-Musk, anti-Trump people are going to see what they want to see. It's literally the opposite of that. It's literally the opposite of that. Because we're not the fanatics of Musk. We're not the fanatics of Trump. Those are the people that are more likely to not be able to see what so many people clearly see. That is the cognitive bias, right? They have already made the choice. These are our guys. Therefore, they are refusing to see what is blatant and right in their face. It's not the other way around. People that don't care about Trump, people that don't care about Elon, they're not the ones going, oh my God, I'm forcing myself to see something that's not there because I hate them so much. That's not how it works, morons. That's not how it works. The cognitive bias is the fact that you made the choice to support these men and like these men, and you're going to take that to the grave. Therefore, you are unable to see what is so plainly in your face. That's how it works. Joe Rogan is getting dumber by the day, and he's so locked into this stance. He is really the opposite of patriot. He's a fucking traitor, just like a lot of these guys, just like Musk and Trump. They are fucking traitors to our country. But anyway, look at his fucking thumb. That's where I was getting at. Like, that's the sign. You wave like this when you wave to people. You spread your fingers, right? If you're just going to do a wave, your hand is open. Sometimes people do. Sometimes people like kind of close their hand and wave, like especially like a beauty pageant or a prom queen when they're on the float. You know, they'll kind of close their hand a little bit and kind of do one of these, maybe, you know. But when you do as he did, and so passionately pound your chest, and this is exactly how the Yahtzees do it. And we can compare and contrast that in a minute if you like. And then you shoot your hand out, and then he puts his thumb down like this, right? Which is like, it's like when you're going to flip somebody off, right? You don't just kind of like lazily go like this, right? Right? With your hands open like you would like a wave. You go like this, right? Like this intentional like pulling of the fingers. Sorry to flip you guys off like that. And then some people, they'll take it another step further when they're flipping you off, and they'll do one of those like aerodynamic ones, you know, like this, where they got the fingers kind of cuffed in, you know, like an airplane. And that's what he's doing with his thumb, right? This is an intentional move. He's putting his thumb down and his hand solid like this with intention. He's doing it at the correct angle. He slapped his chest first, and then after he does it twice, then he comes back to the microphone to remind everybody, oh, my heart goes out to you. I forgot to say that part. that's the qualifier you need to know that my Yahtzee salute wasn't really a Yahtzee salute. So if I just go ahead and tell you, oh, my heart goes out to you, then okay, you're gonna understand now that what I just did on purpose wasn't on purpose, right? And it very clearly was. And anybody who says otherwise is an idiot. But there are a lot of people now that are selling their Teslas, trying to get out of, giving Elon Cuck any money because they can clearly see what he has done. Even in Germany, I think somebody recently posted. Do I have the right screen up? Yeah. On the Tesla factory, his salute. Let me see. Germany. Oh, shoot. Yeah, that's the other thing. His speech in Germany. Where's it at? Where's the Gigafactory? They projected his Roman salute onto the side of the Tesla factory, which was interesting. But, instead of showing you that, why don't we show you this? This is more evidence that he did it on purpose. You see that? That's Elon Cuck himself doing a live video in Germany at a rally of the far-right conservative movement, which is still fairly small, but getting bigger and gaining attention in Germany. This is the party of Yahtzees, essentially. Neo-Yahtzees in Germany. And right after the inauguration and right after Elon Cuck does that salute in front of our people, he goes and makes an appearance at this extreme far-right convention in Germany and telling the people in this convention not to worry about Germany's past, that it's time to let go of Germany's past. He's saying this to what's essentially a group of Yahtzees in Germany right after he does the salute, right? But of course, he didn't do it. He was just waving. He was just saying, my heart goes out to you. Bullshit. Complete bullshit. They are all doing this shit right in front of your face, just like Trump does. They do it right in front of your face, and then all the sycophants, all the fanatics write it off. No. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean the words that came out of his mouth. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean that. Well, he said those words again, and he said, this time I mean it. But he didn't mean that. He didn't mean that. Fucking audacity these people have, right? Now, Elon, heart goes out. Let's see if we can find that. Is this one? There we go. How long is this? Let's see.
Great news to talk about.
Oh, damn it. This is a 36-minute video. Let's see if we can find a shorter one. Is this it? Look at that. Right there. That was a previous speech that he did some time ago saying his heart goes out to you. He knows how to do it properly. So what were the excuses? Some of the excuses, as I mentioned before, were that he has Asperger's. He was excited. He didn't know what he was doing. Well, I believe I've proven to you already what with speaking to a group of far-right neo-Yahtzees after doing a salute. And now, showing you what he does when he really wants to say my heart goes out to you. And then on top of that, you just have logic, right? Elon Cuck has been speaking in front of big crowds and investors for decades now. He has had formal speech training. He has advisors. He has people that convene with him to talk about the things that he's going to talk about on stage. He's got handlers. He's got the whole 9 yards. Not only is he a competent speaker and he's a professional and he does it almost daily in front of people, but he's got people that are helping him along with those things. Never once in any of his previous speeches did he get so excited that he accidentally did something outrageous like that. No, like I just mentioned, he generally would do stuff like this. His mother apparently is a known racist and Yahtzee sympathizer. I believe his father was too. Don't know the particulars on that. But once you get out of your bubble and look at the truth, you realize like the dude did it on purpose. And these are all dog whistles. DEI, right? His Yahtzee salute, the immigration issues and deporting non-criminals, even though he said he was only going to deport criminals. Like, this is all just blatant racism. And now you see it publicly. Like, his followers and his people are way more emboldened now to be racist in public. Like, that is the effect. And this is like the Donald Trump effect in general. Like, his reckless behavior causes people to act out, essentially. And it hurts people. His reckless words causes people to act out, and people get hurt. Just like the pandemic, I've mentioned this 100 times, I think, at this point. Most of us know, not the brainwashed ones, but the most of us know that 2 months into the pandemic, when all the other countries were shutting down, Donald Trump kept our planes going, he kept our borders open, and he kept telling everybody on TV almost daily not to worry, it's just going to go away. Go ahead and go to your gatherings, go be with your family, go to parties, do as you want, it's just going to go away. Mind you, he was still saying that after England tried the the same process where you infect everybody in mass and then it diminishes the virus. They tried that already. Too many people died, and they had to shut that program down and start separating people and keeping people's distance, right? But even after England did that, Donald Trump was going on TV and recklessly telling people it's okay during the pandemic. What did this cause? This caused his followers to continue to spread this virus during the time when it was like more deathly to us than it is now, and it caused more people to die. And if you look at the numbers, you'll see that about 50% more Republicans died from COVID during those initial months than Democrats. Why is that? It's because Republicans are more likely to listen to his words, believe him, and take him seriously. And that's why a majority of them died and a minority of Democrat voters died. So it's just further proof that his recklessness and his reckless words really have an effect on people. And the same thing with Musk. All this reckless misinformation and disinformation that he's constantly spreading on Twitter hurts people. People die. Taking out the FAA, people die. All the chaos that he's caused this week. People get hurt. They lose their money. The stock market crash. People lose their money. And it's the rich people that benefit in a crash like this. He's also threatening so many damn people. We could end up in a fucking war, which he wants, most likely. Because that only makes the rich richer, When we suffer, they get richer. That's when they can swoop in and buy everything, So yeah, Elon's a Yahtzee. What else do we got? Oh yeah, we had the Gulf of Mexico changed, which is another stupid, massive distraction. Let's see if we can bring that up. That's the smallest picture I could have found. Let's see. Whatever. Gulf of America. That's so stupid. Again, this is another weapon of mass distraction. Donald Trump can keep himself on the airways, keep everybody either freaking out, talking about him, arguing, fighting, dividing the people, and they can swoop in, take our rights, change laws, take our money. That's what he does best. And that's another case of what's happening here. The one thing that disappoints me the most about this is Google. I thought Google was more likely to kind of stay out of the political realm. They did apparently donate $1 million to his inauguration, but every tech company did. They did not have representatives sitting front row at Donald Trump's inauguration. So that kind of rendered Google and YouTube as like being more of a safe space, not part of this social media coup that these far-right cucks are doing at the moment. But it turns out that Google is going to be the first to jump on the Gulf of America trend. I think most people, I guarantee most people around the world don't appreciate it. And I don't believe most Americans appreciate it either. It's just the typical Republic cuck, fanatic Trump followers that are all, yeah, America, 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 let me beat my wife. Those are the ones that are appreciative of this name change that is merely a distraction on the public. Most people have brought it to light that the world isn't going to change the name. Their maps aren't going to change. Their globes aren't going to change. It's going to remain the Gulf of Mexico for the rest of the world, except for our dumbasses. And I was happy about that, really. Cool, good. Nothing's really going to change. It's just we're going to have 4 years of stupid Republic cuck idiots yelling the Gulf of America all the time for absolutely no reason, which makes no real difference to anybody's life other than it being fucking stupid. Until Google showed up and said that they're going to change Gulf of America on their maps, which made me realize, shit, I think like everybody on the world and around the world uses Google Maps, which kind of changes that name for everybody around the world by simply changing it on Google, which is upsetting. So I guess we'll see what happens at the end of the day. I wouldn't mind seeing, I don't know if the changes occurred yet, and I haven't checked, and I choose not to, because as with everything else, anybody who supports Donald Trump in any way, I am boycotting, and I suggest you do the same. But I will be boycotting Google Maps as well. I don't feel like they're committing the worst atrocities, so I'm not like going to boycott YouTube or Google in general, but I definitely will be boycotting Google Maps from now on. Now it will be interesting to see if that change occurs in other countries. So if you're in another country on Google Maps after this change occurs, I wonder if it'll remain the Gulf of Mexico while you're running an IP address outside of the United States. That's going to be interesting for me to know, because if so, then Google is just kind of placating him. I think a lot of the tech companies are worried. They're going to lose a lot of funding, and what with this like broligarchy he's created with TikTok and Facebook and Elon Musk with Twitter. I think a lot of the other tech companies are just kind of a little on edge. They don't necessarily want to bend the knee, but they don't want to like outright go against him. So I kind of feel like that's what Google is doing in this case. It's not really a big deal. It's just stupid. And it just continues to remind us how dumb a large amount of the uneducated American public can be, because we're still hiring this orange idiot as our leader. Clearly, we don't learn from our lessons. The other thing, that's another one, concentration camps. Yes, America is once again in the business of concentration camps. Why is that? Well, Donald Trump again went on TV and let us know that he is working on a project to turn Guantanamo Bay into a 30,000 person concentration camp. He didn't use that word. Definitely didn't use those words. I can't remember the words he used exactly, but let's call a spade here. It's a concentration camp. Will it be used for criminals? Probably not. They're now considering any undocumented immigrant to be a criminal, and they're treating them as such. So depending on how the deportations go, I'm assuming that they intend to house them there while they're trying to figure out how to get them to their countries. At least that's what they are suggesting. I'm kind of seeing something different, and this isn't verified, and it's not. There's no evidence of what I'm about to say. I'm just kind of going by historical standards, as there is no reason to have a 30,000 person facility in Guantanamo Bay in order to aid in getting migrants home. Listen to my words, because that's essentially what we should be doing, is aiding them to get home. There is no need for that. Why Guantanamo Bay? Well, what happened in Guantanamo Bay? It's historically been a place where we've very illegally committed crimes against humanity. Yes, we sent a lot of the bad people we've captured to that place as a way to inhumanely torture them, to, get answers, I suppose, to treat the bad guys the way they should be treated. The reason it was in Guantanamo Bay and not on our American soil is because you cannot commit those types of atrocities here. You shouldn't be able to. At least it's illegal, but having a station in Cuba in a secret, agreed upon place, you seem to be able to get away with a lot of crimes against humanity in that situation. And that's exactly what I believe is happening now with Trump's new concentration camp. If you notice, at the same time, he's also demarcated Mexican cartel members as terrorists, right? That's another thing that he made the agreement with Canada and Mexico. I'm not sure if Mexico agreed to that part of the agreement, but definitely in Canada, any cartel members will be handled as terrorists, right? Cartels are now a terrorist organization as far as my country is concerned. So let's add those things together. We have a concentration camp now in Guantanamo Bay where many atrocities can occur, and there'll be no one to be held accountable for those things. And all people potentially connected to Mexican cartels will now be treated as terrorists, right? What does that mean? Well, we've been through this when it came to the Iraq war. We lost a lot of our rights as far as the government spying on us and stuff like that. And we voted for those things, just like we voted for this piece of shit now. But what that tells me is that this is going to allow our government to, without evidence, declare that somebody is part of a cartel and therefore a terrorist, and now that you're connected to a terrorist organization, we can do whatever we want without being beholden to any laws. When you're a terrorist, you get treated like a terrorist. You get brought over to Guantanamo Bay, and they can do whatever they want with you. And that's my thought process on what's happening here. Trump and his regime's ability to now claim that anybody they want is connected to a cartel, therefore a terrorist, and therefore not be given due process. And I believe that's what's happening. I believe it is connected to this concentration camp that he's building. And I believe we're going to see a lot of human rights violations coming up in the future. As a matter of fact, that may be a way for him to deport legal migrants in this country, right? He can sweep up anybody brown, essentially, with brown skin and from Mexico or from a Latin country, and make the assumption that they're connected to the cartel, and therefore put them under the terrorist moniker and send them to Guantanamo Bay. And that's some awful, awful shit, because we don't need that. We don't need to be doing that. It's just more blatant racism, and it seems like we're going right down the same path that we went down in World War II. And it's like they're following the Yahtzee playbook, play by play by play. Find a particular people, tell everybody over and over and over how bad they are, that they're criminals, that they're hurting our country. They're hurting, as Trump and Hitler both put it, they're hurting the blood of our nation. Remember that. Both Schittler and the Orange Schittler said those same exact words. They've made an enemy about an entire race of people. And just like in World War II, just like Mr. Adolf did, they put these people in camps and they eradicated them. And we're following that same path. Now, for the last few years, a lot of the Republic hucks, a lot of the fanatics, just the dumbest of the dumb in this country, kept crying and crying. Why do you guys always compare him to Adolf? Why do you keep doing that? He's not even close to Adolf. He's not done anything like Adolf. And we've always been like, look, he's not like Adolf yet, but he seems to be following the same exact steps. And every single day that passes, another thing occurs that just gets us closer and closer and closer to him being like Adolf. It's almost the same playbook. It's following the same pattern. It's lining up directly with history. And the more that time passes, the more we can legitimately start comparing him to Mr. Adolf, which is unfortunate and it's awful. And I really don't know if there's much we can do about it right now. One other thing, I'm starting to get a little tired here. We might call it quits soon. One other thing I noticed. Donald Trump has an obsession with President McKinley. Right, we went over this last week just a little bit. I was trying to figure out why he decided to change the name in Alaska, the mountain, back to Mount McKinley, right? Let's see. There we go. William McKinley. There's a lot of things that kind of fall in line with the William McKinley stuff. That's kind of interesting. So what it appears like is the orange turnip didn't really have anything of policy. Of course, he campaigned for 2 years and didn't really say anything. He just said, Mexicans bad, tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. I mean, that's basically it. He didn't have anything good to say. And of course, all the dumb people in the world eat it up because it's culture wars. The dumb, simple-minded people are very attracted to culture war stuff. Oh yeah, trans is the other one. And they don't really care so much about actual policy. So yeah, he changed the mountain in Alaska from Mount Denali back to Mount McKinley. And it just kind of piqued my interest. Like, what is it with Mount McKinley? What is it with William McKinley that Trump is so interested in? And it would appear that Donald Trump probably just like read a book about McKinley and then, or not even, he doesn't really read. He probably watched a video or heard something about McKinley and decided this is the guy he's going to base his entire presidential persona on. So I dove into it a little bit, not a ton, trying to figure out the connection between Donald Trump and William McKinley. And last time I looked at this, I was like, what bad shit did he do? And it turns out William McKinley was really known in the Gilded Age. He was, I believe, the last president within the Gilded Age. Very well known for implementing loads of tariffs that rose the cost of goods for everybody, and it basically turned the people against him. I don't know if Trump got to that part in the video or the book where it turned, all the tariffs turned the people against William McKinley, but I hope he ends up finding out shortly. Anyhow, there's more connections. Many times during Donald Trump's campaigns, he kept reminding everybody that he's going to bring America back to the time when America was the richest it's ever been. The 1890s. We're going to get us back to there. There was more wealth in this country in the 1890s than there ever was in history. That happens to be what I looked up. Was the same exact time that William McKinley was president. Okay, so we're making some connections, right? The 1890s. Donald Trump said there was more wealth in this country than we've ever had in the 1890s. Oh, and that happens to be when William McKinley was the president. Oh, and he was the tariff president, right? What else happened in that period? Oh, guess what? The 1890s, that's what they call the Gilded Age. This was a time in the American history where there was more wealth disparity than any other time. Yes, there was more wealth in this country in the 1890s for the wealthy, right? There was fewer rich people with a larger sum of all of the money and a smaller sum for the rest of the United States than ever before in our history. That's what that time he keeps referencing was the Gilded Age. And if you look in history, and actually now it's starting to come back in politics and in a lot of the news sources, people are bringing back the old term robber baron, right? And that's what they would call what is essentially our today's billionaires were the robber barons of the Gilded Age, like the Rockefellers. Everybody remembers Rockefeller as one of the most famous businessmen names in American history. I believe they're responsible for a lot of things, even the railroads. I think, I'm not sure. So there was like a handful of ultra wealthy people during that time. They obviously used child labor. There were no labor laws, underpaying employees. Like the disparity in wealth during that time was more than we've ever seen in history. The poor were uber poor, and the rich were a small group of people that were uber rich. They were the robber barons. They were the wealthy, and that is the time that Trump keeps reminding us of. So, like I said before, he says everything he's doing out loud. And he just knows his people are never going to do the research. They're never going to look it up. They're never going to educate themselves. So he can. He doesn't even need to silence himself. I don't even know if he has the ability to. His cognitive decline is so massive. I think he just blurts out what's in his fucking head at this point. But he's told us that. I'm going to bring America back to the age. This is what he really means. Back to the age when the few wealthy people had all of the money and everybody else was super poor and dying. That's what he's really saying. He's referring to the Gilded Age. When McKinley was the president, when McKinley enacted more tariffs than ever before. What other connection is there? This is crazy, and I looked this all up a couple of days ago. The expansionism. Like, Trump even got that. Like, he's not even creative, right? Trump isn't even, like, coming up with these ideas on his own. He's looking at William McKinley and what he did and then trying to repeat it without realizing the end of the story where he gets kicked out of the presidency for over-tariffing the country and, further increasing the wealth gap. So the crazy thing is William McKinley was an American expansionist. Whoa! Trump is trying to fucking expand. He's stupid, so he's probably not going to successfully do it unless he annexes Panama, which would be awful. That would definitely start some sort of war between the Latin American countries and us, which would not be smart. And he has said he would use military force to annex Panama to take back the canal. Stupid piece of shit. But yes, William McKinley did the same thing. The difference is that William McKinley at least alluded to doing these things for the betterment of the people. I believe he took the Philippines. He expanded, to U.S. territories, the Philippines, I believe Cuba. I'm not 100% sure about that one. Puerto Rico. And I think there's one other territory that McKinley expanded into. Now, he took Puerto Rico and Cuba and the Philippines. I think all three of them potentially for the same reason, saying that they were under Spanish control and the Spanish were terrorizing the people. I believe there was a Spanish-American War. Toward the end of that war, we were able to get a hold of those territories. The Philippines were given back And if I'm correct about Cuba being one of the countries we expanded into, that was also given back. The Philippines were given their independence, given their country back, and as well as Cuba. We held on to Puerto Rico, and if there was another country in there I'm missing, either that was given back or it still might be. Oh yeah, Guam. Guam is still an American territory. That was another one we expanded into. So those expansions, those American expansions, were done potentially to help the people of those countries, right? And as a matter of fact, Puerto Rico is still an American territory, and it seems as though they prefer to be part of the American regime, because I'm sure there's a lot of monetary benefits that goes to Puerto Rico by remaining one of our territories. So yeah, as I'm saying, it seems as though William McKinley, although he's made a lot of mistakes, he over-tariffed the people, wasn't necessarily the best president in the world, was a big part of the Gilded Age, which definitely put more wealth into the top few rather than the people, which ended up getting him kicked out of office. Well, he just didn't win the next election. But his expansionism seemed to benefit, at least publicly, we don't know if it was propaganda or not, seemed to benefit the people of those countries. Whereas the difference in this situation is that Donald Trump's expansionism is solely for ego. I mean, that's all we can assume it is. He never campaigned on it. He never said we're going to take our neighbor's land. He never said he was going to take Panama. He's doing this shit for his own ego. I think he idolizes William McKinley in whatever video he watched or book he watched, and he's just essentially trying to recreate everything he did. Yes, Trump wants to put more wealth in his own hands and in the hands of his cronies, the people that work with him. That's why he's cutting oil regulations all over the country. He's completely surpassing with his climate emergency, Clean Water Act, Endangered Species Act, subverting all of that so we can drill, baby drill, which is the stupidest thing. Even though we don't need any more drilling, just to support the oil companies, the oligarchs. That's his only intentions, to make himself and his cronies richer and increase the wealth gap in this country, just as his old pal William McKinley did. The president during the time of robber barons, high tariffs, and U.S. expansionism. And that is exactly the playbook that the orange turnip is trying to copy. And we could probably all do ourselves a service and do a little more research on William McKinley, and we might be able to learn a little bit more of what Donald Trump might be up to. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. January 6th, Musk salute, Gulf of America. Yeah, 1 second here. Somebody please tell me how to turn off these notifications. I don't know if you can hear it on your side, but it's interrupted me like 1,000 times today. It's been quite annoying. I think maybe that'll be the last topic we get into. Maybe January 6th and then my detractors. It's still quite funny. I'm very appreciative of the TikTok community because everyone there seems to be quite nice. When I get people trying to comment poorly on some of my videos, there's some back and forth, not really a whole lot of animosity. It kind of dies off pretty quickly, but for the most part, there's a lot of support on TikTok, and I appreciate that greatly. Whereas on YouTube, there's just detractors galore, just complete tool bags, assholes, Trump supporters, which I actually appreciate. I like getting in front. My videos are getting in front of Trump supporters and pissing them off because, if anything I can do for the people of this country, it's to annoy, berate, and humiliate the MAGA morons out there, the Republican MAGA morons out in the world. So one of recent comments I received, I believe it was on YouTube, was that of January 6th, right? And I keep coming across their arguments, which seem to be, one of the biggest ones is like, why did Biden pardon all of his family and Dr. Fauci preemptively if they didn't do anything wrong, right? It's this argument, they must be criminals if he's pardoning them, right? Whereas Trump gets into office and then immediately releases 1,500 actual criminals, right? What's the difference? What's the big difference between Biden's pardons, preemptive pardons, and Trump's pardons? Well, the preemptive pardon has never actually been done in our government before, and it's kind of theoretical. Whether it can be subverted, we don't even know. I'm sure if they were adjudicated in court, if Fauci or one of Biden's family members actually did something wrong regarding to the government and it was uncovered, there's probably a way to still, convict them of something, since a preemptive pardon has never really been done. But Biden clearly put those pardons through to protect the people that he thought were most in danger from this Trump presidency, as Trump very, very publicly has done over and over repeatedly throughout his campaign, was to remind the public that he is going to use our justice system as revenge against the people that came after him. Right? He blamed all of his legal troubles on Biden and sicking the DOJ on him, which is incredibly false. There's absolutely no evidence that that ever happened. And in fact, I'm pretty sure Biden went far out of his way to make sure there was no direct communication between him and the Justice Department as to who to go after. And if you really look at the timeline, the Justice Department went after Trump a little bit too late because it didn't really have any effect on him winning the presidency. But what did happen is Trump utilized his crimes and his court cases to bolster his campaign and tell his public, he always lies. That's all he does. He lies and he steals. That's the Trumpian manner. But he utilized that to tell his people that the justice system, that Biden and his people are using the justice system to come after him. And that when he gets into office, he's going to do the same thing back to them. So what we have is a situation where one group of people who really tried to honestly govern the people didn't do anything. And then Trump is now claiming that they did, and now dictating that he is going to destroy these people for what they did to him, which, they didn't do anything. The Justice Department did what the Justice Department does and went after criminals, him being the biggest one. So, of course, in Biden's situation, being worried about people that didn't fucking do anything, he's trying this preemptive pardon. And so what the Republicans keep doing, especially in my comment section on YouTube, is trying to compare that to the January 6th pardons, which were fucking reckless and unbelievable. Right? Now, I want to get into this a little bit. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the stupidest people in Congress of all time, she keeps saying, why did these people have to go to jail, which would what otherwise just be a simple trespassing ticket, right? That shit pisses me off more than anything. Like, and it is, again, utilizing the people's lack of knowledge against them, especially the Trump supporters' lack of knowledge against them, in the way that, first of all, if you go to any government building, you can't just walk in. You can't. A civilian, non-government official cannot walk up to the Capitol building and just go inside, right? You generally, if there are tours, because I know the White House does tours, the Capitol does tours, the Pentagon, I think you have to get special clearance to even go into the Pentagon. I'm not sure about that. They might do some very, very protected tours, right? So there's really no way to get into those buildings as a civilian. If you do have a tour at the Capitol building, you have to go to the front door. You have to be guided by a host, a chaperone, or a guide, if you will. You have to go through metal detectors, through gates, make sure nobody's bringing in anything dangerous. And then you are guided through the areas you are allowed to see in that moment on that day. Now, if any human being went up to the Capitol building, not part of a tour, and just tried to walk in, boom, they're getting arrested. If somebody tried to just run right through with weapons or whatever, break down the doors, break in any way, they're not just trespassing. They're breaking into a government building, and that will end up in potentially a year at least behind bars for something of that magnitude, right? This is not just simple trespassing. This isn't jumping over someone's fence and walking in their lawn. This isn't going into Walmart and being told that if they don't leave, they're going to be trespassed. This is breaking into a government building, stepping foot. And everybody knows this, right? Everybody knows you cannot walk in a government building. And this is like across the world. It's not just the United States. I was in Mexico some months ago. There was a Capitol building at the place that I was. It was the city hall building, essentially, the government building, at the place that I was at. And I walked up to the front door. There was a guard there with a gun, and I'm like, Hey, can I go in? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, not gonna fuck with you, Mr. Guy with a gun, because you know what? You're not allowed to go into government buildings without clearance, without passes, without being part of a tour. You're not allowed to, or you go to jail. That's how they protect government officials, is by not letting the public just go in and out of those fucking buildings. So when you go to January 6th, there's a lot of people pushing down barricades, hurting police officers, like physically assaulting them, and then breaking into the Capitol. This is a lot more than a trespassing thing. This is not just an open public building. There are museums and other public governmental buildings down the street from the Capitol building that you could potentially, you still have to go through a metal detector, but you can just go in leisurely as a tourist and look around, but not the fucking Capitol building. Everybody fucking knows that. So this was not just a simple trespassing issue, very clearly. Not to mention that loads of people had weapons. They were beating cops with these weapons. There was a large part of the Proud Boys and those other militias that there was conspiracy, communications with them to all bring weapons to this event. All of those things happen, right? Not to mention the one thing that the media always forgets to mention about January 6th. And this one really, really gets me the most, because this is the fault of liberal media in general for missing these very important details, right? On January 6th, when they were doing the transfer of power, Donald Trump decides to do his protest campaign, right? Which was obviously purposeful. Why did he have to do it right in front of the Capitol building? He did it on the day that the Congress was transferring power, right? There was a congressional hearing for the transfer of power, and he did it right in front of the Capitol. If this was simply a protest meant to send a message, he could have done it anywhere else in the world. He could have done it at Mar-a-Lago. He could have done it in Florida. He could have done it in California. He could have done it down the street from the Capitol, right? He could have done it anywhere in the world he wanted to, if he didn't intend on potentially setting the people loose to the Capitol for some sort of insurrection, right? That's the thing nobody ever brings up. Like, that's the connection to whether it was purposeful or not purposeful, was if it was just a simple protest speech, he did not have to do it there, right? He did, in the speech, say, we're taking our country back. We have to fight for our country. We're going to march on to the Capitol. He said those words in that speech. You rile a bunch of people up. People break down barriers. They didn't just trespass. These are criminals. And then the people that hurt the police. Donald Trump in his campaign, over and over and over, called them prisoners. Not prisoners. What did he call them? I don't know. He called them patriots. Hostages. He called them the January 6th hostages, right? They broke the law. Like, I know better not to walk into a government building without permission. Like, even if there was nobody protesting there, I ain't just going to walk in or sneak into the Capitol building because I'm going to go to jail. We all know that shit. This is 10 times worse than any of that. And so he campaigned on releasing the January 6 hostages. And then when it finally came to do that, I guess the word around the White House and even J.D. Vance mentioned multiple times that they're only going to release the people that weren't charged with violent crimes or assault or any of the kind of more horrendous acts that were done that day. But when the order came to Trump's table, and apparently these were the very words, he just said, fuck it, release them all. Like, without any thought. Just another sledgehammer to our fucking processes in government. Fuck it. Right. Which just goes back to the idea that, like, as long as you're loyal to Trump, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Doesn't matter. You can steal, you can rob, you can kill, you can hurt people. As long as you're loyal to him, you're free to go. And that's the only message that was sent. And that's the big difference between Joe Biden's pardons, Donald Trump's pardons. These are people that killed cops, dude. Just a slap in the face to every single person here, to every single person in the U.S. that has committed a small crime or infraction and gone to jail, right? To somebody that's broken into a government building and is in jail for 5 years. It's a slap in that guy's face because there's people that did it under at Trump's command and now are free to go, right? It's a slap in the face to every single person. It's a slap in the face to law. It's just a slap in the face to the American people. And then more so, as we continue down that path, many of these people that were released have now been either reconvicted of newer crimes or killed, right? We have 3 of these people that Donald Trump released were PDF files They have all had prior records of retaining and carrying CP, right? Child in danger stuff that I can't say out loud, apparently. They've been previously convicted of that. Donald Trump put them back on the streets, right? That's a big difference than what Joe Biden did protecting people he cares about. That were not convicted of anything, mind you. And now one of these guys has gone back into jail for firearms, holding illegal firearms. He's back in jail already. Another guy has been killed. He had an altercation with the cops, pulled out a weapon, and was shot. These are criminals that Donald Trump released to the public, and now a lot of them are going back to jail. There was a woman from January 6th released who immediately, I think like the next week or a few days later, got super drunk, got in her car, crashed into another car, killing the people in the car, and is now going to jail for decades for manslaughter. And, you know, I don't know what the level is. When you kill somebody in a car accident, there's more. So many of these people that he's already released back into the public, actual criminals that were there on January 6th, have now committed crimes, hurt people, caused death, caused pain upon our society. And now the Trump MAGAT Republic cucks are coming at us, coming at people like me, saying, well, Joe Biden released all of them. They must be criminals. No, dude. This is different, dude. This is way different. People he tried to protect were not criminals. There's no evidence of any wrongdoing. He tried to protect the people from the guy that's releasing actual criminals onto our streets and PDF files back onto our streets. Every single thing that Donald Trump has done since the day he took office has been awful for this country, awful for all the people in this country, and have literally hurt us. They've hurt our friends. We've lost trust with everybody around the world. People have died. People have lost tons of money, including his own people that supported and voted for him. So that's where we're at today. We'll look at one last thing. There were some protests in Los Angeles, I think in Chicago too, that were quite cool and good to see. I like seeing communities. I'm a former LA resident, and there is a very large Mexican population in Los Angeles, and man, do they don't just know how to party, but they also know how to stand up for themselves. They're all really good, hardworking people in general, and when shit like this goes down, they come together, and it's good to see. It's really a cool thing to see. Let's see if we can find a video real quick of that before we log off tonight. LA protests, Mexico. Let's see. Pretty sure they're saying F Donald Trump right there. Viva Mexico way. Look at that. All right, we'll skip around a little bit. There was some cool footage of them taking over the freeway. Now, I don't necessarily agree with people stopping the flow of traffic for their protest, but what's happening right now in the country is so goddamn outrageous. Like, you just got to side with the people that are being hurt the most. So they want to block the freeway. I'm with you. I don't even care anymore. All right. Let's see if we can find that. That's how I want to go out today. We're in 2 hours and 36 minutes into this podcast today. A lot of technical difficulties, but that's all right. We're going to clip most of this stuff up anyway. Let's LA protests, Mexico. Let's do freeway. Is this it?
Now traffic is once again moving through a stretch of the Hollywood freeway that was shut down by an immigration protest.
Gigi Gracia live in Los Angeles with more. And yesterday, the crimes. Yes, that it didn't crowd when officers using non-lethal force to disperse the crowd when the protest was declared an unlawful assembly yesterday. It started, though, in the morning at Alvera Street with protesters on freeway, and they were taking over bags from the United States, others from the country of origin that they were either born in or their family. The backup on the freeway quickly built to being miles of protesters, and they protesting for our we're gonna shows a lot down once again.
Oh, damn.
As of last night,
crazy.
There were
It's not necessarily the video I wanted to see. There's this great video somewhere of like the first guy that got onto the freeway during this protest. And it was like,
now traffic is once again.
Everybody was on the bridge, kind of looking over the freeway, and one guy jumps down on the freeway and is walking through alone with this flag. Cars are stopped, and then it starts to flood the highway with the Mexican protesters. It was quite a cool thing to see.
Now traffic is once again.
Let's see if we can find it real quick. Jesus Christ. Maybe this one. Wow, look at that. That's wild. This might have it. Look at that. That's insane. Look at that amount of people. Is this going to show it? Is this going to show it? Come on. I don't know. Maybe we're not going to see it today. Take my word for it. It was cool. Let me give it one more shot. Mexico. I think it was the 101. The 101 freeway, maybe. All right. Well, looks like we're not going to find it today. But that's a cool image to leave us on for now. There we go. That's it for me today, folks. Yeah, a little disjointed, a little rough around the edges. But we got some talking points in. I think I need to be a little bit more organized, in the future. God damn it. I need to get rid of those alerts more than anything. What do we take away from this today? Well, just chaos. That's what we're in now. He's scaring the world because he's erratic. He's unhinged. He's chaotic. He's unintelligent. And he's just swinging a hammer around, destroying whatever he can. It's like I mentioned earlier. I believe a big reasoning behind all of this is it's a money grab, right? If we go to war, the war is better for the rich. It's good for the defense contractors and for all the cronies. Of course, he's connected to all these people now. So starting a war, being with Panama to take land, whatever it is, it's going to make them richer. Just like yesterday, what with the tariffs being put on and then removed after an agreement is made, but not without like almost destroying the stock market. That too is a cash grab, right? All the investors are waiting for the moment. They're selling at the top before these tariffs go in. Trump puts in the tariffs. Stock market takes a dump. All these rich whales buy after the stock market takes a dump. He removes the tariffs. Stock market goes back up. They've just made billions of dollars and taken that money away from the people that can't afford to lose it. So it's exactly what happens every time. Like I mentioned earlier with Doge and what Elon does, how he's taking the money away from the people that support him the most. Again, that happened today. Stock market crash, whales come in, they buy at a cheaper price. Stock market goes back up. They're the ones to gain, and it's the regular guy, the regular investor that loses his fucking money. These are criminals. These are criminals that have taken the White House, right? One last thing to mention. This is different than what we've ever seen before in our government. Of course, we've all said it before hundreds of times, even Democrats and Republicans alike, that the government's corrupt, that there's moneyed interests. There's moneyed interests in government, and that's what makes it corrupt, right? The difference between everything before now and now is in the past, we usually had the billionaires paying and lobbying to our congressmen, to our government officials, to try and get them to pass laws or remove regulations to help make them richer, right? That's been the whole game. The oil companies paying off people like Lauren Boebert so she can go and continue to fill the public's ears with anti-science, anti-man-made climate change rhetoric, right? That's the trade-off. The billionaires pay the politicians. The politicians do favors politically for those moneyed interests. The difference now is that the billionaires are in the government. There used to be that firewall there. The politician was the firewall between the billionaires and our laws and governments and regulations. You had to pay these guys off, and maybe they would be able to fulfill the billionaires' need if they could. A lot of times they can't. A lot of times all they can do is just continue to spout rhetoric to their communities and get them to maybe vote for some shit that helps those billionaires that paid them. But now that firewall is gone. The politicians are not stopping the moneyed interests from getting to our government, right? The billionaires are now the government. And so now they can essentially do whatever they want to make themselves richer, to remove restrictions. Trump has been bought and paid off, which is exactly why he's just removing all regulations for any business in this country. He's got connections. He's got other business entities that are connected to all these people. He's getting richer and richer by the day. So is Elon. Elon is now going in and shutting down government departments and taking public information with his people, and he's not even an elected official, right? He's got the permission to do this. And he's hired, I think it was 6 billionaires are hired into Trump's cabinet. So the billionaire interests are now the politicians. The firewall is gone. This is a second Gilded Age. They're taking our money. They're removing our rights. And they're manipulating us. And there's probably not much we can do about it other than vote, right? I think there's going to be a couple special elections coming up. There's only a 2-seat majority in the House and Congress. There's only a 2-seat majority now because there was 2 special elections. There used to be a 4-seat majority by the Republicans, but there's 2 special elections due to Donald Trump's cabinet picks, and those seats flipped. They flipped Democrat because of all the bullshit that's going on. So there's only a 2-seat majority now in the House, which means you need to vote. Wherever you are in the world, you need to vote, and you need to vote blue to stop this fucking psychopath from continuing the chaos in our country and our government, from continuing to piss off all of our allies, hurt our friends, and make us not only the laughing stock of the world, but pretty much going to turn the world against us. And that can turn into some really, really, really ugly shit. So there are a couple, 2 more, I think, special elections, which if those seats flip, we can have an even split Congress, which could stop a hell of a lot of damage that Trump is basically hell-bent on doing. So please, if you're watching this, if you're a Republic cuck, if you were a former MAGAT Republic cuck and you've changed your tune, well, welcome. We don't hate all Republicans. I don't hate all Republicans. We only make fun of the ones that have not been able to see the light, switch their mindset, and stop bending over for an orange daddy, as they like to call him now. Please, do your best to help this country by voting blue, not just in these rush elections, these 2-seats elections. We've got another election in 2 years for the Senate and Congress, and more than anything, we need to vote blue to stop all the damage that this man can do and will inevitably do. Vote, vote, vote. I really didn't ever used to care, right or left, Republican or Democrat. I never gave a shit about any of that stuff until this fucking man came along. Some of us have the aptitude and ability to see through the bullshit, but a large part of the population does not. They've been manipulated, sucked into this crap, but it's time to end it. It's going to take a while, but we have to band together. We have to keep talking. We have to keep going on TikTok, keep doing shows, and just not shut up, because they're going to keep throwing stuff at us every day to distract us, to confuse us, so they can get away with their plans. So we've just got to keep fighting. Yeah. Lastly, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all social medias. Please follow me on TikTok at The Good Truth Live on TikTok. Please follow me on YouTube at The Good Truth. Please follow me on Twitch at The Good Truth. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, if you're interested in participating with this to help build this into a better show in general, if you're in the Southern California area, you want to be on a podcast or help me build this up to more of a podcast type scenario, maybe potentially to be an engineer for the show, run the switchboard so I don't have to deal with stuff like these alerts going off all the time, please send me an email at thegoodtruth@gmail.com. And one last thing, I will be bringing back my t-shirt company that I had open for quite a while. I've just let it go, but I think now more than ever, this is a good time to bring it back. If there's anything that I have said that you have liked or that you've appreciated, please go to thekillfactory.com. That's the name of the company, thekillfactory.com. It's a t-shirt company based on street art designs, political designs, skate designs, punk designs, just kind of cool original t-shirt designs. I only fare to gain maybe $2 to $3 per t-shirt sale, but any little bit would help. I'm bringing that website back, so if anything I have said sparks interest to you, please go ahead, do me a favor, go to thekillfactory.com, check out those t-shirts. Any little bit helps. I'm going to put some anti-Donald Trump shirts up there very soon, and I'm going to get that website back up. So that being that, been a little bit of a rough show today, but I've been working 12-hour days, and it's been fun. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. Thank you to everybody who joined me on TikTok. I hope you followed. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Twitch. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week. Cheers.